Yeah, I mean, I welcome the chaos. The rule of show business is if it's the first week of my album release and you are saying either my name or my album title, you're helping.
The moment the new Taylor Swift album landed, the timeline didn't just react, it detonated. People weren't arguing about one song or a stray lyric. They were questioning the whole project, the branding, the tone, the references, the targets. Some fans said it was her most honest work in years. Others said not even close. And as the takes piled up, the conversation turned into something bigger than an album review. It became a mirror of fandom, of expectation, of how we handle disappointment from someone the culture treats like bulletproof glass. By the end of this, you'll see why the noise around this album says as much about us as it does about Taylor. But first, we need to talk about what people thought they were getting versus what actually arrived. Anticipation didn't simmer, it boiled over. From the moment the title and promo images surfaced, people were sure they could decode the sound before pressing play. The aesthetic whispered glittering spectacle, big pop, Vegas energy, lights on all the time confidence. Fans stitched predictions into threads and TikToks, a bombastic return to pop perfection, a sugar rush record built for stadiums and summer nights. That's the expectation machine at full speed. Once it's running, it doesn't stop to ask if it's accurate. Then they release it, and the comments shifted from "this is about to be iconic" to "wait, this is what we got." Some loved the warm rush of familiar Taylor DNA. Others felt they were promised fireworks and got soft neon instead. That difference between what people projected and what she delivered set off the first wave of whiplash. But the reaction didn't stop at love it or not for me. It split into tribes. On one side, you had diehards insisting the album's heart is classic Taylor. Confessional, playful, a little bit messy on purpose. They pointed to her earlier catalog and said, "Y'all forgot who she's always been." Reminders flew. Remember Stay, Stay, Stay? Remember the candy-coated hooks of Shake It Off? Remember how Lover leaned shamelessly into romance? The argument wasn't that the new album is flawless. It's that Taylor's toolkit has always included bright, earnest, sometimes cringy on purpose lines that lodge in your head like a secret. On the other side, longtime listeners said they still adore her, but this one didn't land. Not because it's upbeat or accessible, but because it felt mid-tempo and sammy, promising a showgirl spectacle in the promo and delivering something closer to diary pop with rhinestones. Some felt the writing skimmed when they wanted it to cut deep, especially after the folk-tinged storytelling era that hooked so many new fans. The fan base didn't just disagree, they interrogated each other's taste. If you liked it instantly, were you blinded by Stan goggles? If you didn't, were you a fake fan? That's where it got personal, and that's where the internet thrives. And then came the jokes. The internet is undefeated at turning discomfort into comedy. Joke videos popped up roasting the "give it 5 listens and it'll click" strategy. People pretended to train themselves to love it, pairing the album with cake or holding a fork in the palm. Pavlov's dog meets pop fandom. Others lip-synced in deadpan while insisting it was the best thing my ears have ever heard, daring you to admit you didn't feel the same. It wasn't just about the songs, it was about the social performance of taste. Meanwhile, a quieter chorus kept saying, "let it marinate," because Taylor records have a habit of unlocking themselves later. And that's true for a lot of pop. What irritates on first listen can be the hook that grabs you on the 10th. Still, the mockery stuck, because it captured a real tension. When you care about an artist, it's hard to say, "this doesn't work for me," without feeling like you're betraying the brand you built in your head. And as the discourse swirled, a familiar face offered a different kind of perspective. Into the noise came a musician's take. Charlie Puth explaining why songs sometimes echo each other. 12 notes, infinite combinations, but overlap is inevitable. His 4-note threshold idea: once you cross those opening similarities into shared turns, you drift toward interpolation territory, wasn't about accusing anyone. It was the opposite. Stop treating similarity as scandal by default. Music talks to itself. It always has. Fans read the timing. Taylor had name-dropped Charlie before, saying he should be a bigger artist. And people noticed him stepping in with a teacherly tone when chatter about "this sounds like that" peaked. Was he defending Taylor directly? Maybe. Was he reminding everyone that pop shares DNA like cousins at a reunion? Absolutely. But if you open the door to song echo conversations, something else walks in with it: history. The minute songs sounding alike entered the thread, people resurrected the Olivia Rodrigo moment. Years back, Olivia added Taylor and collaborators to the credits on Deja Vu, after citing Cruel Summer as an influence and sparking debate about where inspiration ends and interpolation begins. It became a litmus test of fairness, power, and how young artists navigate the industry when they adore their heroes and end up too close to them on paper. Now, with listeners claiming certain new tracks nod toward other artists, the discourse looped. If Olivia gave credit because she said the quiet part out loud, what happens when similar vibes happen the other direction without the confession? The internet framed it as gotcha, but the real story is messier. Influence isn't a smoking gun. It's the air music breathes. Charlie's point tried to land there. The timeline, predictably, kept the receipts anyway. Once people tired of debating structure and influence, they turned to the oldest game in the Taylor universe. Who are these songs actually about? If Taylor writes it, people will decode it. That's the contract. Theories stack fast. Some listeners heard father figure and read a metaphor for the old master's saga. Betrayal by someone who was supposed to protect her, with a perspective flip that made it sting twice. Others looked at cancelled, spotted a British spelling with 2 L's, and whispered, UK. Then they pulled out the timeline of a high-profile divorce, media framing, and a friendship that made headlines. Suddenly, lyrics about being painted as a party girl didn't feel abstract. They felt like a subtweet set to a beat. Then came the jewelers and the zoomers. A necklace and a photo shoot allegedly matched a friend's custom piece. Cue speculation. Are they still close? Is the song shade, or satire, or solidarity dressed up as drama? It's what Taylor World does best. Spins a web of clues. Some planted, some coincidence, all irresistible. And we weren't done. A few lines got read as digs at a certain NFL X's X, a move some fans called unnecessary, others shrugged off as classic pop pettiness. It's not that any one theory was definitive. It's that together, they turned the album into a mystery box you could open 100 different ways. While everyone else assigned characters, Taylor finally gave us something simpler, her own temperature check. In a calm, almost amused tone, Taylor talked about the first week cyclone. If your name or your album title is in people's mouths, the machine is working. She framed the conversation as part of the art's life cycle. You make something for keeps, people meet it at different moments in their lives, and the meaning shifts as they do. A record that doesn't hit today might become someone's lifeline 5 years from now. That's not failure, that's time doing its job. She made it clear. She knows what she made and she stands by it. The showgirl theme, to her, includes the spectacle of aftermath. The chaos isn't an accident, it's a costume change. The mess, the think pieces, the discourse about discourse, all of it belongs on the marquee. Not because she needs validation, but because that's the energy a cultural juggernaut generates when it refuses to fit inside a single lane on command. And if the spectacle is part of the work, then the reaction isn't a distraction. It's the second half of the performance. Which brings us to the question nobody wants to ask out loud. Under the jokes and the charts and the Easter eggs, a bigger tension hums. Fans want evolution, but they also want a guarantee. Surprise me, but only in ways I already like. That's not art, that's customer service. Taylor's catalog trained us to expect pivots, sparkly country, imperial pop, cottagecore melancholy, synth midnight confessions. We celebrate the reinvention until it reinvents away from us. Then we call it mid. Maybe that's why this record made people itchy. It didn't overwrite history, it folded back on it. It reminded some listeners of the parts of Taylor they'd rather pretend she outgrew. Bubblegum hooks, diaristic lines, the willingness to rhyme something so on the nose it circles back to audacious. For those who arrived during the whispery poetry era, that can feel like regression. For those who've been here since the beginning, it's continuity. Here's the twist. Both readings can be true. A pop behemoth can give you a mirror when you wanted a map. You can hate an album and still understand what it's doing. You can love it and still admit it isn't built to convert every skeptic in a single play. That's the friction that makes these drops seismic. It's not the songs alone. It's everything orbiting them. The history, the friendships, the perceived targets, the myth of the flawless era. And even if you swear you're done with the discourse, you're still here. Which tells you something. There's a reason some Taylor projects bloom late. The melodies you called basic become the lines you hum while brushing your teeth. The lyric you rolled your eyes at finds you in a parking lot when your life gets weird in the same way. That doesn't mean every album is a grower or that critics got it wrong. It means pop is sneaky. It sneaks into moments you don't plan. For the people who feel burned by the promise of sequins and spectacle, your reaction makes sense. The promo looked like neon. The songs drifted toward soft focus. That disconnect is real. For the people who hear a return to bright, shameless, heart-on-sleeve Taylor, your joy makes sense too. The record rewards anyone who doesn't need every line to be a thesis statement. And for the ones laughing at the idea of conditioning yourself to like a record, sure, it's funny, but most of us already condition our taste without realizing it. We blast a song at the gym, and now it feels like power. We put an album on during a long drive, and now it smells like freedom. Music is memory glue. It sticks where you put it. Let's put a pin in the similarity talk. Pop has always been a house with shared walls. Choruses echo choruses. Drum patterns reincarnate. A bridge leaps where another bridge once landed. Sometimes it's tribute. Sometimes it's coincidence. Sometimes it's lawyers. Charlie Puth's explainer tried to thread that needle. Don't confuse parallel lines with plagiarism on site, but also don't pretend homages don't exist. The fan instinct to call foul the second two melodies touch is understandable in an era where the biggest cultural currency is the gotcha. But the better question isn't, did this sound like that? It's, what did this do with the resemblance? Did it twist it, flip it, answer it, tease it? Great pop often carries other songs inside it like a sample you can't quite place. That's not theft. That's conversation. Every era of Taylor gives listeners a different way to interpret themselves. The underdog, the empire builder, the exile in the cabin, the midnight confessor. This time, the inkblot reveals whether you're nostalgic for sparkling pop Taylor or conditioned to expect novel-length verses and muted palettes. If you came for the former, the record feels like home. If you came for the latter, it feels like a polite no thanks. That's the Rorschach magic. The same line reads as goofy charm to one person and shallow filler to another. The same melody is a dopamine hit here and a shrug there. The songs didn't change, the listener did. And that's the wild part about megastar releases. Millions of people hear the same thing and have entirely different experiences. All certain theirs is the objective one. Taylor said, she makes with legacy in mind. That's not a coy flex. It's a strategy. Legacy vision means you accept week one as the loudest and least reliable verdict. It also means you seed work with layers that may not flatter the hot take cycle, but will reward listeners over time. It's why some records that feel safe on day one become cultural glue, and why difficult albums sometimes age into classics. If you measure the album by whether it ended debate, it failed. If you measure it by whether it generated conversation and revealed where the audience is emotionally, it succeeded too well. The showgirl theme wasn't just feathers and lights. It was also the spectacle of watching the crowd argue in real time about what they were promised, what they got, and what they think Taylor's job is now.